Hi everyone, this is Unseen Killer. Welcome to GunCADemy. This is my second recording. I'm terrible at this, and I'm going to have a lot of commentary along the way, so my bad, and that's just how it's going to be. Deal with it. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is two stages. We're going to be covering how to take your designs and your projects out of Fusion 360, making them prepared and correct and ready for animations. We're going to be opening them up in Blender, and we're going to be learning how to make animations. I'm ADHD. You're probably autistic or ADHD. That's okay. We're all in this together. What I'm going to be doing is the fast, quick, easy version where I'm just going to blow through one project really quickly in just a couple minutes because I know that your attention span is limited. And after probably anywhere from like 4 to like 7-ish minutes, we're going to cut over, we're going to do it again. So if you don't want to listen and you want to watch and you want to scroll past really quickly, if you see me open up Fusion 360 again, that's your stopping point. That's when you know that I've flipped over to the full version, and that's where the condensed version ends. So here's your fast version. I've got a project open in Fusion 360. The only thing I'm going to preface this with is hide the things you don't want in your animation, in your export. So we're good to go ahead and export this. I'm going to save as mesh. Inside of that menu, we're going to do one file per body. Make sure your refinement is on the default high. That should be sufficient. Go ahead and hit OK. You may have noticed that I had this folder open here, C Blender. I like to keep things out of the backed up folders because it's just faster that way. I have OneDrive and it backs up everything automatically. So if it sits there, it goes fast. So we're going to navigate to that location real quick. I have an STL folder for everything that I work on because it keeps all the bullshit away from the actual CAD files. These are actual, usable files or whatever. But we're doing the R45, and I like to keep these separate because they have all the STLs for like McMaster car parts and rendered parts. They don't matter. So preface that with STL, hit OK, hit save. Keep your eye on this little bar in the bottom right, the little loading bar. You'll be able to see it export. It takes a while. So little housekeeping item here for you while it's taking a while. I apologize for the previous recording with the texturing. My microphone was definitely nowhere near close enough to my face to catch everything. So that has been adjusted. My bad. It's probably like 6 inches away from me now, so everything should be coming in through the noise gate. If it's not, I will post a video of me blowing up this microphone with a shotgun, and I will buy another one, and that's a promise. All right, so administrative stuff aside, looks like we have all of our files, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Again, this is the fast version. You're not going to get all the information that you need out of this. We're just going to blow through it and make sure it all works. All the information that you do need, however, will be in the full version afterwards, where I'll, explain what I'm doing. This is just me doing it quickly and making it work. R45, a grab, let it all load. You'll notice that trying to move around is going to be frozen while it comes in. If you click it, you can get it to not respond, and we're good to go. All right, so AS down, scale it down to a nice, small, usable size. G for grab, move it like that. Make sure it's nice, small, easy to render. Select everything, and then hold down Shift, click on the main receiver piece. Then right click, go to parent, and go to object. It dumps everything inside of the frame. And then if I go to right click, origin to geometry, if I rotate this, everything comes with it, and your rotation becomes relative to your frame itself, which is pretty cool. All right, so now that it's grouped, it's ready to go. For this one, what we're going to do is we're going to have the camera be still, and we're going to move the stuff around. So we need to make this a scene, and then we're going to make it animate. So I'm going to go to Z, rendered. You're not going to be able to see anything. That's intentional. So Shift A, add a light. We do an area light. G, Z up, S big. That's G for grab, up on the Z-axis, scale to make it bigger. We're gonna take that thing, and we're gonna do a couple more actually. We're gonna bring this guy over here, render it over. Control C V, G Y. There we go. Yeah, we'll move over here. R locate. Take both of them. Control C V, R X 180. Enter G Z down. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna take those and this, and then we're going to Control L, and we're gonna link object data. That way, in this view, which is the rendered view, where you obviously can't see shit, I'm gonna just click on this one light. I'm gonna go to its light settings, and I'm gonna edit its lights. And you'll see that the light gets fixed everywhere because all of these lights are now gonna take whatever properties I give that other one. So if I take this one and I make it fucking blue, the whole thing gets blue because all of them got linked properties together. We're gonna undo that. All right, so now we need to give it some color. We're gonna go real simple, real fucking simple. Yeah, there's red, and then we'll accent red with black because red and black is as cringe as you can get, right? So we'll make a new color. And this guy will be black. All right, so I'm gonna make everything. I'm gonna hit H to hide, and we're gonna hide that shit as well. Hide. All right, so everything is selected. Shift, click on the last thing, Control L, and we're gonna link materials. So now everything's black. Hold down Shift, unclick the eye, click the eye, while Shift unhides everything, then or hides everything and unhides everything. So we're gonna grab a couple things real fast. We'll do that guy. And we'll do that guy. And I don't know that we need anything else. That should be fine. If we grab the final one, we Control L to link it, and the final one becomes the copying material sourcing. This is about animation and coloration, so I guess we'll do some of both. So I'm going to click this guy. We're going to go to edit mode. We're going to hit the plus icon over here to add a second color. We're going to go to that black one that we made. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find what we want to grab. So we're just going to grab the select mode. We're going to use faces. We're going to grab the lettering. We're going to do this, Shift, click, get a face from each letter. Shift is being held while I click on one face per. This is a way faster way to color all your stuff. I think I had this on the other side. Yeah. Shift again, click. This is a regular click, by the way, not a right click. Click. That way I'm just doing one for each letter. That should be satisfactory. Yeah, all right. So select linked flat faces, grabs everybody, click on black, click assign, click off, get over to object mode, and you've colored your highlights. I'm not going to go through and do everything else. You get the point here. I could do the same thing for these letters in here. I'm not gonna. So we've got a model. For the shitty version, we're gonna be doing Eevee. For good versions, you don't want to. Go to the advanced version for that. So just know that that's there. Right now we've got 250 frames. I don't know how many seconds that is. We'll do 30 FPS. Calculator. 250 frames divided by 30 FPS. So 8.30 second video. Cool. Okay, so here's what it looks like in render mode, which means what it's actually going to look like. We're going to turn this shit off. There's the actual view. To give you where the buttons are, we're going to go here. Change your background to blacker. Maybe give it some color of some sort. Yeah, sure. There's a thing. It's a thing. Okay, we're going to click this button again to show our materials. Shift A, grab a camera. We're going to hit G, bring it over here. Hit the 0 key on the number pad. Shift tilde, come over here. make sure that you can see everything. We're going to go to our orange thing here. We're going to go with 90, 0, and 0. I don't think 0 is what I want. It might be. I don't know. Let's move this guy over. There's the gun. Drag this thing around till I get it where I want it. That's not it. That's not it. That'll be minus 90, apparently. There's the gun. I wouldn't normally do it this way, but I want this for the people who aren't listening to see where it's going with this. We're going to go over to this guy, make this 1080 by 1920. That way it's good for social media. And now that we know where we're square, we'll get it pretty close. And then we'll be able to fix that. 90, then 0, then negative 90 will be our nice squared up view. Okay, so we're at the beginning of the staging. We're going to grab this guy. I'm going to hit RZ and see what it does. So it rotates it this way a little bit. We're going to give it a little tiny bit in a second. I'm going to hit Y. There we go. Just like in your printer, you want to have something rotated one way first before you rotate it another way. That way it stays nice and organized. So RZ, that's a bit too much. So we're going to undo that. RY. Let's go not so extreme. Yeah. There we go. RZ. Yeah, there we go. And then we'll take it, we'll put it right about there. We'll turn off this view. All right, yeah, that'll do for the easy one. So now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit keyframe record down here, and we're gonna snag all of these in keyframe format. And then we are going to go to the end, which is 250, but it's important that you go one frame over, 251. Cool. So click off so it doesn't go yellow. Make sure you click just that one and only have that one yellow. Control C, Control V, puts the entire keyframe there in the middle. Then what you can do is you can start moving it in the middle, right? So here I'm gonna go, let's go like halfway-ish. Turn this view on again. Click that GZ only, drop it down a little. And then come over to this new keyframe. Click off of them so they're not yellow. Click on the new one only. And uncheck everything except for location Z. That means that all the other shit got held. And nothing else came over except for that one location Z. Cool. So then halfway through, we're going to RZ. Like that. Yeah. So you'll notice it keeps wanting to do all these other ones. And since we only moved RZ, we're going to leave rotation Z only. There we go. And then while it's over here, we're also going to go ahead and like recenter it a little. That's fine. Yeah. Cool. And then over here, we're going to let's click off this yellow down here. We'll RZ it back the other way quite a bit. There we go. So let's see what it's going to do. It's going to go down here like that. Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, that's some basics of how to move stuff around. And hitting spacebar will play it so you can see it move. And then we're going to keyframe one other thing. I'm going to hit the camera over here by clicking on this line, going to the camera. And at the exterior, actually right about 70 in, we're going to grab that focal length, keyframe it. Right about here, we're going to bring the focal length in quite a lot, keyframe it again, and then right about back here, we're going to bring the focal length out some. Click the first one, Control C, Control V, have it override it. That way we're going to do a zoom in and a zoom back out. Cool. All right. So that's ready to play through. Make sure that you like it. Turn off the little lines up top. I don't like that because it goes too out of frame for my liking in some spots. So because it does that, I'm going to grab it when it's most out of frame. And I'm going to hit Shift tilde over here. And then R, fit it in frame. And you'll see that it fucks it all up. We're going to hit Control Z, Control Z. We're going to keyframe the camera where we actually like it for everything. Then we're going to go to the very end, 251, do the exact same thing. And then we're going to find it where it fucks up. Yeah, like right there. And right before where we know it's good, like that, we're going to keyframe it again. So we have little pinch points. We're only making changes where we know it's bad. Bad, 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 bad. Not bad. Bad. So we'll fix it inside of that. We'll do one more pinch point. And then we'll find it at its worst, and then that's where we'll fix the camera. Like right like that. Yeah, okay. So we'll click off these things. We'll point the camera at it, rotate it some in. That's Shift tilde to move the camera around, and then R to rotate. So then, yeah, it just cleans it right up. And if I wanted to fix this one over here, I could bring it over. Yep. All right, there we go. Okay, so now that you're ready to export it and it's perfect and wonderful in every possible way, make sure that you choose an output folder of that same Blender C drive folder, but instead of the STL folder, just because you have a lot of name override issues in the future, have a project folder that you dump these things out into, hit accept, and then before you start rendering, save as, and also put it in that project folder. Do R45, enter, save as. All right, so that's saved. We're gonna make this a FFmpeg, color management and encoding. We're gonna go off Matroska, which is MKV, we're gonna MP4. For the sake of this one, we're gonna go like low quality. H.264 is fine. Good is fine. File, save, render, animation. So it is actually rendering right now while we're going. This will go faster if you hit Z over here and go to solid. So it's only going to render it in one frame instead of two at once. As you can see, it's going to blow through it pretty quickly while we're recording. And you can see the preview over here. Yeah, we're about halfway done now. And I'll make sure that this plays, and then we're going to just kind of scrap this whole thing and start over with the full version. But this is an animation. You keyframed some things, you imported some things, you made some things, made custom textures, lights. We introduced a camera, we changed the focal length. We applied things to a bunch of different places. We edited some individual faces. I think that covers like the ultra mega basics of brought some shit in, made some recordings, spit out a file. The reason you do that one extra keyframe is that way it actually loops. So let's go check it out. Let's go see it. Project R45 comes out as a number of keyframes range of what recorded. Yeah, so here's your recording. Now, for the purposes of GunCAD, that might be just fine. The biggest complaint I'm going to have for the people that stick around for the fancy version is this very end piece here. Look at the last few seconds, how it comes to an abrupt stop and doesn't keep moving. Having those seamless recurrences are what are important to me. And we'll cover that here in a bit. So that is the fast version. We made an animation. It was very painless. I don't know it looks like I actually wasted 19 minutes for that, so I vastly overshot, so that's my bad. But this should be pretty easy. So this is the indicator that we came back in here. I'm actually not going to do anything different in order to export this. I just wanted a nice visual for people that are scrolling through it and want to stop. So we're going to hop back over to Blender, and we're going to do a fresh one, new and clean and nice. And we're going to make this like way better than that. And there's so many things that can go into it. I don't feel like it's necessary to go through every scrap of information I know about Blender to do that. But in the interest of full detail and only having to do this shit once, I am going to do this part with like actual details, actual explanations, actual logic behind it. So that way, anybody who wants to ask me questions, I can just point them to this video and be like, hey, did you watch the whole video? Did you listen to everything? It should all be in there. So we've opened up Blender. You exported your STLs the way you should have, and we're going to start with the full explanation of everything. So take a little drink of water real quick. And here we go. So when you open up Blender, you get this pop-up. You can click off anywhere and it goes away. Zoom out, grab everything, and just delete it. We will add it as we need it. You zoom out some, you'll notice that your background goes away. Open up this little arrow, hit view. At the end clip, just add a 0. You'll thank it. All right, so file, import STL. Don't use the STL experimental. Use the regular STL. Underneath the Blender folder, we're going to go to STL R45. We're going to hit the A key to select all. Import STL. It's going to take a minute to bring it all in. The cool thing about exporting STLs out of Fusion 360 is they maintain their location relative to origin, is what it's called. Meaning that however you orient things or use the align tool, which is fantastic, it's going to come into Blender that way. So all the things that I built and aligned for this gun in Fusion 360 is going to be like perfectly aligned in like every possible way, which comes in great for animations and transparency shots when you want to show through it. You want to see how things are actually made. All the hardware is actually there. So that's pretty cool. So what do we do next? What's the workflow? How does this all work? Why is this the way that it is? It's somewhat similar to CAD, but it doesn't meet all the criteria. First of all, I wasted a lot of my learning times trying to mess around with collections and scene collections and shit. That's not necessary if you do this next part. That is, take your object, right click it, set your origin to geometry, meaning that that little tiny yellow dot that's now right there, that's where everything's going to pivot. It did a delta of everything in that whole object. And now if I rotate it, it'll be like this. It'll rotate relative to itself. Now all I gotta do is just grab everything, shift, grab, and click twice. Make sure that this is the last thing selected. Right click it, go to parent object, and it just dumps it all into one single Blender object. You can go through and like mess with all the stuff still, but basically if you grab this guy, you click on this guy, you hit the G key for grab, everything comes with it, which is super handy. That way the gun is just the gun. So just grab that piece and there you go. And rotate it, and then there you go. And scale it, and there you go. Right? So very, very much preferable to having to select everything you want at once and move it all. So then the next thing you want to do, and this is like so important to everything. Listen, this is like one of the most important things I can teach you about this process. And I know that it's super simple. Grab the item, hit the S key for scale, and bring it down some. But dude, if you don't do this part first, you will just kick yourself. Basically, the logic here is however much data you have is going to determine how much math you're asking of it at size. So the lights don't care how big or small your model is. They don't care about your model. They care about what is all in the scene. And if your model is small relative to what the camera sees, you're presenting a number of polygons to the camera. So if it's fucking huge in the scale, it's going to try to do all that math. Even if it's all the exact same from the view of the camera, it will take orders of magnitude longer to render when you get to the final rendering process if it's full size. So also, big reason for doing that is you can't just select everything and scale it all down. All your numbers will be wrong. All of your colors will be wrong. All of the textures will be wrong. All of the lighting values will be wrong. You'll have to rebuild the entire thing. So please, please, please scale it all first and then go do your fucking thing. All right, so now that we have this thing scaled down some, I know that you're probably going to want to know a number. There's not a good math to it. If you have a complex model, make it a quarter of its size, like make it smaller. You can make it a tenth of its size. You can make it 1/50th of its size. Your lighting will be challenging. Your scales for your background stuff will be challenging, but you know, they'll all have a degree of working. Just it all affects your numbers here off to the side. Okay, so the next piece that we need to do is we need to bring some light in, colorize it, and then like our lighting, right? So we need to be able to see what we're working on here. So I'm gonna hit the Z key, which is how you flip between solid, rendered, material preview, and wireframe. Solid is the best way for moving around and like seeing everything. Rendered is what it sounds like. It's rendering everything. So we're gonna add a light and see what this model looks like. So let's Shift A. We're going to light. We're going to grab an area light. Clicking on this this viewfinder up at the top right, click on these letters. They give you exact views. So I'm going to hit G and grab it and hit S for scale. We're going to make it nice and big. We're going to hit R to rotate it, point it at the gun. We're going to hit the Y over here, make sure it's pointed at the gun, and it is already. So we're good on that axis. And then all I'm going to do is this part, if it comes in handy for the math later. But basically, if you visualize this spot down here and count in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we can be relative to the gun 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 3 on each side, total of 6, 8 vertical. So let's take that light, let's put it up in that corner. Control C, V, G. Put it on that corner, rotate it in. V, bring it all the way down here. Point it up at it. Control C, V, G, bring it over. Rotate it. This is not the most important aspect of it. It will definitely serve to highlight any imperfections you may have, like not being center, for example. Click on that. Rotate it, point it towards the middle of the gun-ish. These are area lights, so it doesn't super matter, but it might come up later, and be aware of that, right? So, got these lights, they're pointed at it. I don't personally want to do a million different lights. You should when you're building scenes. We'll touch on a piece of that here, but for the sake of what we're doing, we're going to start off with area lights, and then we'll build a scene afterwards, and we'll end up deleting these area lights. So with these, we're going to grab them all, shift, click, unclick, click one more time, make sure that we're setting them. Control L to link them, and we're going to link their object data. That way, when I have one thing over here, and I click the light icon, and I change it, it changes it for everybody else as well. If I click on this guy and I make that another 0, everybody has the same 0. So they're linked. All right, so now that we can actually see our colors, we're going to add a color and then mess with our lights. So you get a default color here, and we're going to make it blue. And you can actually see it pretty dang well. I don't hate that lighting. I don't want to bring it up just a smidge, so I'm going to click on that. I think of it, I like to ignore the zeros, right? So if you look at this number, think of this as a 10 on the lighting scale. I want this to be a 12. All right, so that's better. Let's go with a 14. Yeah, that's still pretty good. That's not too bright. Let's see what too bright looks like. Let's see why I'm concerned about 14. Let's try 60. Like that's way too bright. That's washed out, blown out, doesn't look good. 14, not looking bad. Let's try 20. 20 is not bad. I think we're gonna go with 20. So now that we have our lighting the way we want it, I'm gonna click on this guy. I'm gonna hit H for hide, and we're gonna make a new color here. I like to do black as at least having one. We're gonna click on this other material. I'm gonna name it PLA blue. All right, so now we know that we're doing PLA, as in like polylactic acid or 3D printer filament. Then we're gonna hit this new material. It just duplicates what you have. So we're gonna call this PLA black. We're gonna change its color to, as you guessed it, black. All right, so just to make sure we don't accidentally colorize things, we're gonna select and hide, hit Z and go to material preview. You can actually see your stuff without having to have lighting. So we're gonna grab everything, and then including that, Control L, link materials. Everything is now black. Holding down Shift, I'm gonna uncheck the eye up here in the top right, and I'm gonna click it again, and it hides everything and then unhides it all, so we can see it all in one place. So with this Ruger R45, we're gonna want a couple different colors going on here. So for this guy, we're definitely gonna want to switch him out to blue. Let's do this guy as well. So this is a pretty cool feature where you can just add a second color to something and then edit it. And we're gonna click on that. Sorry, we're gonna switch it over to face selections. Click on a face. None of that encapsulates, which is cool. We're gonna click on this face. We're gonna select linked flat faces. You'll notice it didn't grab everything. It's because it's rounded. It's not perfect. We're gonna do it again. Select linked flat faces. And we're probably gonna have to go in here and grab some extra ones. Make sure they all get grabbed. That usually does a pretty dang good job of getting everything that you need. It's not perfect, but man, does it get like all the work done that you really don't want to do. Is the couple little touch-ups are nothing compared to the pain of manual face selection. If it wasn't clear to anybody, I am using a 3D Connection Space Mouse. That's why I'm able to get in and out of these things so easily. I would strongly urge you to consider buying one. It makes all of life better. All right, so now I've got these selected. I'm going to click on the blue and hit assign. And now that's blue. We're gonna do that a couple more times, that way you can see it done. I'm gonna flip out of edit over into object. There we go, that one's nice and done. We'll do it on this guy. We're gonna add another color. And we're gonna add black. And then we're gonna go to edit mode. Now this is gonna have a couple faces that I want to edit into it. So let's flip out to object and talk about it. All of this I want done. This guy, this background, these letters, this guy in here, this guy over here, and I may or may not try to include this piece. We'll do that one at the very, very end, but I do think I want to do it. So we're gonna go over to edit mode. Now the way that you do this is you just click on one face and hold down Shift and click one face of every flat you're gonna want selected. One. This is going to be fun. This probably won't work, which is fine. Click. This background. Click. You can tell that I don't shy away from swear words in my speech or in my designs. Because I do this for free and I don't care. That's the real answer. Cool, that's relatively close. We're gonna click on like a couple more. Boom. And we're gonna hit select linked flat faces again. We got much closer. I don't want to risk having to re-click a million things. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna click on black and click on assign. We're gonna click off and we're gonna see what's missing. So over here, just highlight a bunch of these, highlight a bunch of these. All that's good, all that's good. This guy's gonna be fun. Okay, so you should be able to get away with a few larger blocks of selection, and linked flat faces should get you pretty close. Select linked flat faces. Yeah, it's doing better. It's not doing great. It's just a very aggressive curve, but it doesn't want to grab all of it. We'll talk about what to do next. We're going to open up our toolbar over here. And instead of select box, we're going to hold click on that and go to select lasso. Holding down shift, we can then grab a couple edges of pieces and get some more fine-tuned selections in here. Shift, grab over here, lasso it in, make sure that line covers those. Boom. Same over here. Make sure that line covers it. Boom. And then we got, looks like we got a piece over there. You can just use that to edge in and get it selected. Basically creating a straight edge that's portable. There we go. All right, so we're gonna assign those colors. That should be manually selected enough. I know that I said I'm gonna go into full detail, but I'm not going to fix every single polygon for a teaser trailer. This guy falls into that conversation though. So I can grab from here down to that corner, down to this, and come up to there. I over-selected on some of this. So I'm going to, I think it's right click, or no, I'm sorry, control click. And we can unselect things from our selection queue without having to redo it all. So there's assign black. Okay, we've got our colors. We're gonna move on to, making sure that we don't have any other analysis. We need to make some new textures. So object mode, there's our colors. They're nice and finished. This guy needs to be see-through glass, right? So we're gonna duplicate that and we're gonna call it glass. We're gonna make the glass bright and somewhat green. And we're going to then put ourselves back in rendered mode. We're gonna flip out to the mode that we're actually gonna be using, which is called cycles. You'll wanna switch over to your GPU compute right away. Otherwise it's gonna take forever to work on anything, where it starts looking real pretty. So let's get our view. I like to look through the glass at what's behind it when I do transparency so I can see what it's actually going to look like. So then we're going to go to these settings down here for your material. We're going to bring your alpha down where we can see the gun through it. There we go. Now, I believe it is in, gosh, one of these. There it is. Underneath viewport display and settings, the blend mode is what you're going to want. That's going to be alpha blend, shadow mode, alpha hash, and flip between these. Depending on the material settings you have, some will look better than others. That guy, we're going to go into our viewport settings real quick. And we're going to make sure that we have denoising turned on to see what it's actually going to look like, because I'm going to have denoising on for the render. There are different denoising modes. Some work better than others depending on your model. So there's not one good answer. Just make sure that you're starting the sample higher than the number of samples that you're rendering with. If you're going to render using cycles, for GunCAD, man, I mean, I use like maybe 512. For photorealism, you want 4096. And then with this guy, we'll start that sample at 256. I recommend keeping it somewhere in the middle. It really cleans up all that geometry. You can probably see it there. If I turn off the background stuff, it just makes it like instantly smooth and beautiful. So let's take a look at this guy. That's probably not transparent enough. I'm gonna alpha down some more. There we go. We're going to bring the metallic up on that a little bit more. I want that to be a bit more reflective. Yeah. All right, now let's make a metal. This black is the plastic black. We need to make a real nice one. So we're going to duplicate that. And we're going to call this metal. I think these are going to be, we're going to do the brushed silver slide because that's the one I have. So we're going to do that. So we're going to click this guy and we're going to bring that color up quite a bit. And then we're going to start making it very metal with very low roughness. There we go. Now we're starting to like make nice looking metals. Zoom out, see how we like the way it looks. That's not bad. That's pretty close to what mine is. I'm probably going to give it a bit more roughness. Yeah, I'll do some more roughness there. Okay, cool. So I want these letters to pop. So as I mentioned before, we're going to go to Material Preview. Click on this guy here. Turn on our little view thing so we can see our outlines again. And we're going to go to Edit Mode. And here we can just steal our black PLA because it's just a nice normal black. It's not, doesn't need to have any extraneous properties. So we're going to grab one cube from every section. Thankfully, that's going to be not very much time at all. With the select linked flat faces button. I used to do this by hand, and I'm so glad I stumbled upon that setting. Because it was time-consuming, to say the least. Select, linked, flat faces. That looks like we grabbed all of it. The same thing over here. Shift, click, 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 click. And if you're unsure, like if this is starting to look too amorphous to you, and you're like, wait, is that connected or whatever? Just go ahead and grab it real quick. Select. Linked flat faces. I was like, oh, all right, I did those already. I can move on. All right, select linked flat faces. Beautiful. Awesome. Black, going to assign. Flip out of edit mode over to object mode. There we go. We just got a nice little penciled in coloration inside of that. If you wanted to, you could have grabbed these actual letter faces. I wanted the background because that's closer to how the gun actually looks. Cool. All right. So this blue PLA, I'm gonna say this isn't very PLA-ish. It's too perfect. We want it to be a little less perfect. So we're gonna add some metal to it. I'm gonna drag that roughness down. There we go. That's a bit more PLA. PLA's got some reflective properties. It reflects the light. It's got some shine to it. We want to reflect that here. That's better. Now, same thing with this black, right? That black is very, very reflective. And it's a little too reflective. We're going to bring its roughness up quite a bit. And matte it out a little bit. That's pretty matte. Bring that metal up quite a bit. See how we like it. Yeah, that could pass as PLA. Cool. Turn off your view over here. Take a look at it. Does that look like it? Yeah, it does. Man, I'm really hating that blue. We're going to change that blue. Not digging that either. We're going to do the green from the actual release. Let me pull it up and I'll show you what we're going to go for. I'm going to grab that on my other monitor real quick. This is what we're going to be going for right here in the R45. So they called that brownish green. It's a ceramic PLA. I'm going to do my best here to get somewhat close to it. That should do. That's fine. Maybe add a little bit more brightness to it. Yeah, that'll work. That's fine. Cool. Alrighty. So that's pretty close to what I wanted out of this. If you have something that's not printed, it's so easy, man. Just click on the thing, duplicate it again, be like PLA OEM black, right? So that way you can just be like, yeah, this is purchased. This isn't actually like made by me. So we're gonna bring the roughness down some, the metallic aspect up some, and make it look, just stand out a little bit, be a little bit more accenting. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so that's probably colorized enough for what we're doing. We've put the little accent pieces in. We've selected the pieces that we want. I don't see a reason to change any of that stuff for color-wise. So let's get moving on. Let's go back to rendered view. Make sure we like it. Yeah, that'll do the job. All right, so now we need to make these pieces of metal correct. So we're going to turn the line view back on. We're going to hide everything that's printed. Printed, 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 printed. You're going to go through and you're going to grab every little printed piece. Why are we doing this? Because we want to colorize the other pieces correctly. Or the glass pieces that you know are right. All of this, in my opinion, is subject to change, except for those guys which we fixed. Cool. And then this guy, which we've also manually fixed. All this stuff should be untouched. Every single bit of it. So all we have to do now is make a new metal, which I liked that silver. We're going to duplicate it. We're going to call it metal part accent black. But it's not going to be very black. Basically, we're gonna grab the trigger just because it's a good representation of what the color is going to look like. We're gonna lighten it up some. Oh, sorry. We're gonna undo. We're gonna grab the trigger, change it to our new one, our part accent black, and we're gonna make it more appropriate for what the part's gonna call for. Bring that metal down some. Bring that roughness up some. Now we can justify darkening it more. There we go. That's a nice metal black. No, it's not dark enough. Rough that. As you can see, we're going to have different reflective properties on them. It doesn't look like a ton right now. Having them selected different allows you the ability to change them later. I'll show you the... I'll extol the virtues of that momentarily. And take all of this, shift, unclick, click, Control L, link materials. Now everybody's got that same art accent black. I'm going to hold down shift and uncheck that eye and then check that eye. So now all those metal pieces, if I decide I want them to be different, if I decide I want them to be bright silver, they are. If I want them to be all black, they are. If I want to buy red fucking metal pieces and anodize them, it's that easy to make that change. I'm going to bring that saturation down to nothing. I want to see a difference between my metal that's black and my metal that's plastic. That's the main goal here. So we're going to bring that metal up, that roughness down quite a bit. I want to see that shine through much more. Yeah, that's going to look immediately like visually different. I want to see that that's a metal and that's a plastic. I'm not liking this black though, so I'm going to click on that and I'm going to say, hey, you need to be a lot less metallic and you need to be probably... Yeah, there we go. Now we're starting to hit our stride of nearing the realism that we want, kind of, sort of. So, now that we've got the colors the way we want them, this magazine sticks out like a sore thumb like I wanted it to. We're probably going to bring that color up a little bit more than pitch black. And we're going to bring that metallic down some and that roughness some. And now I can bring that black down a little bit more. I don't want the magazine to match, as silly as it sounds, but I want it to be implied as a designer that this was a purchased magazine, not a printed magazine, because we don't have printable 45 ACP magazines that work reliably. We've got 9mm and we've got 10mm. So I don't want to lead people on to think that this 10mm magazine will actually work in this. So that's why I'm making it a different color. That'll be called out in the documentation. So we're about set on this. So now we're going to switch over to animations because we've got some colors that we want. Before you animate, it's important to look at extreme light situations. So this is what I would call an extreme light. This is where you can see a lot of reflection. This is where you can see a lot less reflection. So if you look at those extreme reflections, where they are their harshest, and then you start editing your world, that makes your most pessimistic view on the coloration known early on. This is what really bright looks like. That's not too bad. And the dark isn't too bad. You need to have that extreme. Otherwise, when you start moving the model around and it starts refracting light, it starts like shining up against the camera and makes other things harder to see. You had that perspective when you were setting that background color. I don't get into backgrounds too much. I usually just either set it as a solid color of some sort, or I build a scene around it. For the purposes of what we're doing right now, we're going to start off with just black, so that we can just start showing off our design, right? Cool. So we're going to zoom out, turn our wireframe or our lines back on so we can see some stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a nice, pretty angle on that. Click on the gun, rotate it down so you can see some cool stuff. Come over to this angle. I don't like it to be nice and primp and perfect and vertical. So we're gonna angle it just a bit more. We're gonna bring it in some. There we go. So we're gonna have a little bit of a swoop, a little bit of an imperfection to it, and that's a good thing, right? So calculator, we have to ask ourselves, how long do we want this to be? Well, at 30 frames per second, I don't know. I like to make my teasers pretty short. So what we're probably going to do is we're going to try to fit all of this into 20 seconds and then have it repeat 3 times to be a perfect 60-second teaser. So for 20 seconds times 30 FPS, I need 600 frames. So we're going to come in here and we're going to start setting stuff up. So knowing that we have 600, a vertical screen, we're going to need a camera, we're going to need a ratio, and we're going to need a frame rate set. So Shift A, go to camera. It dumps a teeny tiny one in there right away, which we'll fix. We're going to get an absolute view, bring it out some. Start it over here. We're going to hit the 0 key on our number pad, and it shows us the camera. Shift tilde, which is the key to the left of the number 1. It's how you manually control it with the mouse. We're going to get pointed sort of kind of towards this. Now, inside of this little printer output icon, we're going to switch this to 1080 by 1920. We're going to zoom out so we can fill what the camera can actually see with the screen. And by clicking on the camera and going to this object properties, this orange square, we can get real close to exact measurements. This would be 0, 90, negative 90. There we go. We've got a nice, perfect rotation that's dead on. So now that we've got that, we're going to end this at, just to remind you, 600 total frames. So 600, because I told you that we're going to be repeating this, that means that on frame 600, it's going to be different than frame 1. Because frame 601 needs to be identical to number 1 if you want that seamless transition of repeating the same content 3 times in a row, having it match. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy. I want to be able to see the gun from frame 1. So let's go ahead and hit the R key and the Z key, because we're going to rotate it along the Z axis. I want to be able to see the thing. I want to be able to know what we're looking at here. I want to see the R45, or I want to see the paddle. Maybe I want to not know what I'm looking at. We're going to end on what the actual title of it is. We're going to hit G. We're going to move it over. what we can do as well is we can grab all of these things by shifting that, hitting G and X, and we can move it further or closer away to the camera. That's a pretty good spot with the G key to move it again. There you go. That's a good starting point. I want to lean this back, so I'm gonna hit RY. We're gonna rotate it till we like the way that it's looking. We're gonna hit RX, and we're gonna tilt it away from us some. There we go. I'm liking what we're looking at here. Cool. So that's gonna be where we start. We start by clicking on the camera, making sure. Actually, we're not gonna touch the camera for a while. We're gonna move the gun around, and then we'll touch on the camera in a bit. So we have the gun where we want it. There's a lot we're about to cover. I'm glad that this is being recorded so you can slowly step yourself through this. I want to make some movements, right? Let's start with some really simple movements, then we'll back out. I'm going to flip us out of rendered into solid, and you'll notice that things get really easy to move around when we're in solid. So, in order to have the best of both worlds, you can mouse over this little gray area up here in the top left. You'll see your mouse turns into a plus symbol. You grab and pull with a regular click, and you can have two workspaces. So for the right workspace, I'm going to have that be rendered. The left workspace, it's going to be solid where I can work with it. Rendered takes up a lot of resources and can crash your computer. So clicking on this guy, we're going to go to the output, and we're going to render the region only. That way it's only rendering what it absolutely has to and nothing more. So this will allow us to see it, but this will allow us to work with it. So, and we don't even have to keep it in the camera view over here. We can just do whatever the heck we want, which is pretty great. We're going to start with the camera view, and since we're at 600, we're going to keyframe. Look, and we already have the camera clicked. We're going to go to the object data. We're going to set all of these. We're going to go to keyframe 601. We're going to click this guy. We're going to copy and paste it. That way we make sure that we are exactly where we need to be. Now, somewhere here in the middle, I want to start making some changes. Like right about this far in, I would like very much for this frame to be rotated along the Z-axis. Maybe be closer to us. And then we're probably going to move it up some. And GZ, we're gonna rotate that some more. Or sorry, RZ. RX. Yeah, I want to see underneath this thing. Now you'll notice I have this view over here that shows me, hey man, you don't have lighting over here. Perfect. So we're gonna turn off recording. We're gonna come over here. We're going to grab one of those lights, copy paste it, G, come over here. We're going to start grabbing that piece. We're going to grab this yellow. We're going to point it at the gun, and you can see from the view over here that we can actually see the gun now. So for this guy, because it's not linked, we're going to bring its light factor up. From 20, we're going to 28. Yeah, there we go. Alrighty, so now if I start dragging this thing, camera view, I go to 0, on the camera, didn't keep any of the gun movements because the way I grabbed it had this guy off. So we're going to click on this guy. See how I don't have my keyframes over here? We're going to undo that. Make sure the gun knows where the gun is. It doesn't. It thinks it's all over here. So we're going to undo it just enough so we get that gun back to where we want it. Sorry about that, folks. Learning opportunity. Grab it. Keyframe it. Do another thing of some sort in here. Click off so that this isn't yellow. Put it somewhere else. Just whatever. Just do a different thing. That way, when you come all the way over here, with recording turned on, you move it somewhere, it creates a new keyframe. You can go all the way out to frame 601, grab that first one, copy paste it, know why it grabbed that like that. Copy. It's real weird. There we go. All right, so 600, sorry, 1 and 601 are identical. Perfect. That means that somewhere in the middle here, I'm going to scroll in so we can see some of this. You can also resize it. We get to that guy here, we can have things be different and guarantee that they return to where they need to go. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to come out to this guy. Now, I want this thing to spin at least one full rotation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my R and Z. I'm going to edit this text by typing in plus 360, which means it's just going to go from here to there by doing a full rotation. Whatever it does in the middle is just flavor up top. So now that I've clicked on this keyframe here, I'm going to uncheck everything except for something. I'm going to start with just one location piece. That'll be Z. That way I'm not dragging on a million other settings. So it's going to do its full rotation. And the only thing that this keyframe does is it drops the location of the thumb. That means that if I want this thing to pop up at the very end, it's going to be a slow, gradual drop the entire time, and then boom, real quick, right? So that just tells you when you're moving an amount of Z. Looks like we have a little hang on here. There we go. Boop. We lost our other piece. All right, so with this Z here, we should be able to grab that and move it and be good. These are unjoined, good. Okay, cool. So now we're good to start making some changes. Apparently we have also lost our rotation. There we go. I hit Control Z enough times to bring that back. You want to be very careful making any changes while recording is enabled. This recording button here, this auto keying, because any change you make will impact everything negatively. So with this rotation, I'm going to add a counter rotation. So that means that I'm going to come in about here, RZ, rotated a whole bunch really quickly. Meaning when I hit play, it's going to come all the way out and then slowly repeat the rest. Right? So that means that when I come over here, because it's going counterclockwise, I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to go RZ, and we're going to go clockwise the other direction. When I go to the beginning and I hit play, we're going to flip around, show you some cool shit, back out, and then we're going to go back to our motion, right? So that's going to be an intentional, hey, look at all this. And then, all right, we're going to go back to the regularly scheduled programming. You can just space these out depending on how fast you want them to move. And you can do some really cool things with those little jut outs like that. If I go in here and I click on this guy, we're going to move him over this way. We're going to hit G and we're going to go to the X and we're going to move it close to us. Now let's see what that looks like. So we're starting to make these nice twirls look deliberate and intentional. Right over here, for example, I want to grab this guy and I want to rotate him from this view and rotate him in Z. I want to bring him up this way. I want to bring it up close to us. And we're going to rotate it like that some and RZ it. There's no right or wrong answer here, by the way. It's what you think looks cool. Some things look cooler than others. Like that. That looks really uncool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this guy, which is just that Z key, and we're going to go ahead and delete him. That way when we come through here, we can see one come all the way back out. We're going to have some dead space here, and that's fine. It's got that slow little rotation. It's going to come up here. We'll add something to that, but it gets us to where we're going. I want this thing to dip some about here. I'm going to find like right there in the middle. I want this thing to come down some and rotate RY. Yeah, I want this thing to dip in some. Yeah. We come over here. I want this thing to look like it's fallen over a little bit and then coming our way and picking back up and presenting the R45. And then I want it to spin away from that. I want it to go RZ. Let's spin it away some. As it goes away. There we go. Let's see what that does. There's your R45. Let's get out of here and let's push this thing back away. Now, you see how it came to an abrupt stop? That's because it's got all the other keyframe data which is being considered. We're going to take away everything except for the RZ. We're going to take away all those keyframes. Now we come over here. It's going to go back where it's going. On its way, it's going to fix that Z. Now that Z doesn't keep going as part of where it's finishing here, which means I'm going to need to probably go the other way with that Z. Try that. No, I don't like that flip away. That flip away is not good. We're going to look at this thing holistically. We're going to fly in. We're going to come in here. And it wants to return already to this guy because it's already completed its rotation at this point because of the way that we did this. So we're going to flip it back over one more time. We're going to go RZ. Roughly, we're going to put it back. We can see it complete this way. Let's see how that looks and see what we want to change about it. Ooh, that thing needs a tilt. It's just laying down too flat. We're gonna tilt that way. Bring it up a little. Let's see how that looks. Now you'll notice that this is actually a little bit choppy, and that's because we have not yet fixed our frame rate. Inside of this guy, we're gonna flip over to 30. Let's see how that looks. There we go. Much better. Now this is at the beginning there, it's very linear. You feel that the gun's very vertical. So animation-wise, it's important to start adding rotations in. And by rotations, I do mean the literal like R key and rotate. So as it swoops over this way, I want that to have, I want to have some fucking lean, right? I want it to come out this way some. And if I play it back, it swoops in and goes to where it's going. As it goes back this way, it slips out of frame. So let's fix that. Let's click off this. That's not orange anymore. We're going to flip it back into screen. Now let's take a look at it. There we go. Now it stays in frame. It's dancing around in front of us. It's showing the viewer what you're looking at. Now, I did just catch something. We don't have good lighting here, so we're going to have to come back over there and take a look at that. But in the solid mode, we're definitely seeing all the cool shit that we wanted to have presented. And we settle back in, and you'll notice that as this thing wants to flip out this way, we're going to want to clean up some of that rotation before it loops. Because it's coming in, swooping from right to back, and then as we continue, it's going from back right to forward. So looping wise, it doesn't look like it actually can be clean, right? So we're going to want to correct that. That means that at the very, very beginning, or at the very, very end, we're going to want to come in from the other direction. So from over here, we're going to want to change this rotation from to the right to the left. So that means that from here, we're going to get that guy selected, and we're going to go to RZ, and we're going to do minus 360, hit enter. Let's take a look. So as it flips out, it comes through this way, settles, and then is ready to get going again. And that is something which we can easily fix. So we're going to take that, and we're going to fix its rotation, RZ, back out. So as you see it close in, begin its rotation loop. Now we're looking really good. Now comes the what I would call the hard part. That's where you bring in your graph editors. We're going to bring in yet another screen, and we're going to flip it from 3D viewport over to graph editor. I'm going to zoom out, and it's just this big gigantic mess. Holding down the control key and clicking in the mouse wheel allows you to just resize this to actually like see it in a meaningful way. So you'll notice that these lines are not well named. Shift and middle click allows you to like pan it, just like everything else in Blender actually. You'll notice that as you start playing, you get to see where things are rotating, and you'll see that that big blue swoop is clearly the one that that we're impacting. So what I have to do is zoom into that blue swoop, and we have to temper that angle, right? You just grab these T-splines and smooth them out from where they ended and make it end more abruptly. So now what happens when I do this? A lot better of a transition. Let's go even more aggressive. Let's try that again. Let's keep watching it. Does it look smooth? It looks too fast. We're going to smooth out that curve some. Try it again. Little better. Not great. I think we're getting really close. I think that this needs to speed up some. That again. I think we're like right there. I think it's the end one is wrong. Let's sharpen it up even more. That's pretty close to what it needs to be. So that's your graph editor, and you can just grab individual pieces and see, based off of the visuals, what's going where. That's clearly Z. And being able to hold down control and manipulate that and zoom it in and out definitely makes for, like, see this big grouping of things? If I had to go edit those, I'd want them spread apart so I could see what I'm working on, right? With this guy, I can smooth out that curve and have it move a little better. So that's the graph editor. When you're done with these, you can right-click the gray area. You just go to close area, and not have it like shit all up. All right, so let's get this lighting fixed. Having this view over here is going to help a lot. So we're going to back this out. We can see beautifully, and once we get over here, it's super dark, and we can't see anything. Let's start there. We have our recording turned off, our auto keying turned off. We're going to grab a light, copy paste, G, bring it over here, rotate it in. There's really good ways to do this. I found that they usually take more time than are helpful. I just G and R. G for grab, R for rotate. Get it to where I like it. Change the view some. Make sure to use basic reflective lighting principles. Don't have it right behind the camera. Control C, V, grab it, bring it over here, point it up, and you have some pretty good light. This is a stark disagreement with the rest of all of YouTube and every tutorial you'll ever read. Everybody is all about lighting, lighting, lighting. It all has to be perfect. I just disagree. This is for fun. I'm doing this for fun. Most of the people who are watching this video are doing it for fun. Lighting's cool. It shouldn't be 18 hours of the process of just figuring out the lighting that you like. Photographers are seething right now with that comment. So throwing this thing together, moving it around, taking a look at it, doing its little twirl, zooming in. There's one that we want to modify, right? So the gun's just laying flat here. You can't really see any of its features. We want to adjust that keyframe right there. We're going to zoom in and grab it. We're going to hit R. Sorry, we have to turn on auto keying. RX, RY. There we go. Cool. Let's try that one. There we go. Now we can actually see the dang thing. Show the other side off. We'll want to do something to fill in that space, but let's knock it back like we're pushing it over with our hand. Auto keying's turned on. RZ, backsum, RY, backsum, RX. Yeah, we knocked it over, right? So we're over here, knock it over. Yeah, that's definitely a very accelerated end. I don't like that. That's better. There we go. That smoothed it out quite a bit. So now you'll see that we're just holding still and this gun's just moving around, right? So what about the camera? Look on the camera. Camera's got absolutely no keyframes. So we're going to go to the very beginning and we're going to keyframe the camera. Well, we've already got our keyframes, so let's do something else with it. With this guy right here, for example, this nice little zoom in. Let's keyframe some focal length stuff. So before it gets there, I want to keyframe it. Boom. After it gets there, I want to keyframe it. Boom. And when it gets in here, I want to change its focal length again. Actually, for over here, we'll have auto keying turned on, and we will bring it in some. Come over here, click off, click this guy, copy paste. So it comes out, in, and then back out. You get a nice little subtle background focal length swap. I want it to be more extreme though. And then here we'll probably want to bring the model down a smidge. So find the nearest keyframe for location. GZ. Try that. There we go. Cool. Okay, so now we're moving stuff around. I want to call out that while I'm not doing it in this movement can also apply to any of the other individual objects within a body. They're just linked to the parent, so I want it all to be solid. But you could go and keyframe individual objects and move them as well. Be aware of that. It's a whole other conversation of its own. Making other collections, making other parent groups, like it's all a thing. And nesting dependencies of keyframes along XYZ for location, rotation, and scale. They all work, so I'm not going to go into every nook and cranny of that. Just be aware that you can go in and you can start messing with those. So now my buddy Andrew yelled at me about this once. He said, why does it look like this was made in a computer? This needs to be like a camera. Somebody's holding this camera. Somebody's showing this to you. So what we did was we changed the camera to like, we click on the camera itself. You see our keyframes over here. We'll do some like rotations. We'll change the way that it's looking a little bit. That way it's like moving and has some adjustments. I'm just grabbing new keyframes. I'm hitting the R key and just rotating it a little bit. And then, yeah, let's run that through once, see how she looks. Let me turn off the lines. There we go. Now it's like it's moving around a little bit. It feels a bit more human. The ending's a little lame, but I'll have text over the ending. There we go. All right. So now the camera's moved, the items moved. the colors are applied. We've got some zoom ins. We've got some focal length adjustments. We've edited faces to apply different textures to them. And this is going to be using cycles. So it's going to be using as realistic of lighting as it possibly can. There's a lot that we can do to this for this type of model. This is worth rendering as it is. We will be making a couple changes, not as part of the render, but I want to show you them. So let's pretend that we're done, and we'll come back and touch on bringing things in from Sketchfab. So we're saying that we're done here. This is going to be File, Save As. This will be the project R45. So this will be R45, and we'll call it Cycles, because that's the main difference. It's going to be like a higher quality. So when we turn on the lines, you see this thing up here. If we move this, you see a sample count followed by rendering done. When you have as small of a model as we do, when you scaled it down like that, it doesn't take very long to do this, especially when you have denoising turned on. If I want to render this, go to my settings here, at 4096 with a minimum sample of 1024 without denoising, it's going to sit there, it's going to parse the entire thing and make it look as beautiful as it possibly can and take way longer. For a simple model like this, the argument can be made that there's no benefit to doing that. But just denoising it, switching it over to 512 and 128, actually, honestly, 0 for minimum, and the denoiser starting at 256, should be good to go. Turning off the denoiser, going to 4096, and doing a minimum of 2048, you'll see it takes its sweet time getting all the renders done. And that's one single frame. You're doing 30 of them per second. See, we're climbing. We're still going. We're still on the same frame. But it looks way prettier. So, for what I do, like I said, 512, 128, actually 0 for minimum samples, denoiser at 128. That should be fine. Like I said, you'll want to flip between these for your individual models and see which one looks the best for what you do. Some of them will just smooth corners and edges a little bit better. See that? So we'll go with that. That's fine. You'll want to just make sure that you have this line tool turned on and you see how fast your individual frames are rendering, and make sure that your hardware can keep up with what you're asking it to do, because it's going to take a very, very long time. I'll render this afterwards, and I'll put it, I'll try my hardest to put it at the end of the recording. But just to show you what it looks like to start it, which we are going to do, we're going to go to this output. We're going to change the folder to Blender Project R45. Now, we don't have to worry about overwrites here because this is a different amount of keyframes. You do want to be cognizant of that if you're going to do multiple renders. They'll overwrite if they have the same number of keyframes. We can accept that. We'll go to FFmpeg video. For nicer stuff, if you're using cycles and you care about it, you might as well go ahead and click it over to the nicer settings. So we'll still do MP4. Or I'm sorry, H.264. We'll do perceptually lossless and real time. And then before you ever try to render, go to save. You'll want to get yourself out of any unnecessary views by closing areas, flipping this over to solid. You can leave it at 0, it doesn't really matter. But when you render and you start rendering the animation, it will definitely start taxing all of your hardware as much as it can. So the number I will point you to think about is frame 2 of 600 frames. So this is the full actual like render settings. Now, I think I neglected a piece, which we're going to go back and touch on. Yeah, so we're at 4096 right now. This will take forever. That's because I neglected to mention, in these settings, you've got a viewport setting in here, and then a render setting. If you stage it for one, I recommend getting it as close as possible to the other. You don't get to say when your sample starts or doesn't start for the actual render, because that's what the settings are. But you can do that for the viewport for ease of like use or whatever. Make navigating around the project a bit easier. So what we're going to do here is make sure that we're as close as we can be to what we set up there. And we're going to have a slightly better noise threshold. And then we're going to render. Actually, we're going to hit File, Save, Render, Animation. You can see it start to take off. So you'll get progress bars down here in the bottom center for how far it is through the individual keyframe. You will get the amount of time that it took per frame. Now this will be different depending on the amount of geometry like visible to you. So one keyframe's duration will not be representative of every keyframe's duration, but it definitely gives you an idea of what to expect. So we're looking at 2-ish, maybe 3 seconds per keyframe right now. So if you take 3 seconds and you multiply that by 600 keyframes, you can start, roughly doing the math for how long it's going to take your animation to complete. Which is why I'm not going to let it sit here while we complete this recording, solely because I want it to happen. So we're going to hit X on this, and I'll render that overnight, and I'll upload it somewhere. And now we're going to talk about adding other things to it. But I wanted you to at least get over the finish line for what we did in nicer detail. And now we're going to go out to Sketchfab, and we're going to start adding some other cool shit. All right, let me bring Sketchfab in. Here's Sketchfab, the website. And we're just going to grab some stuff. We can do silly stuff. We'll just add a tree real quick. And you'll want to make sure that the trees are free. There's a maple tree. Perfect. Now, before we download it, there's a couple things you'll want to make sure that you have set. Downloadable is important. And the vast majority of these, for some reason, are just all free and able to be used and awesome. So here's the Tree of Life. Doesn't have a dollar amount on it. You'll want to make sure that you can download that as a 3D model. And when you download it, you're going to want a USD-Z file. We're going to hit download. I'm going to open up my downloads on my other screen. Make sure that I actually see it come through, and we did. So inside this model, we're going to go to File. Actually, click on your scene collection up top, because wherever you have it clicked in your feature tree, that's where it's going to import. So File, Import USD. We're going to go to my Downloads folder, if I can find that. Date modified. I have a lot of shit. Tree of Life. There's the Tree of Life. GZ. Bring it up some. Now, I'm not sure how this would play into what we're doing. But, it's showing that you can just grab a thing off the internet and use it. We'll want to play through this once and make sure that the gun doesn't ever accidentally intersect it. Doesn't. There we go. All right, so go to our rendered view. Look at this guy. There we go. You'll notice that we don't have any of the good lighting for it, but that's fine. We'll scale it down. And hit G to bring it down some. And let's grab it, move it over here. I'm scaling it just so I can see some of it or something. You see that our lights impact the things that we bring in. This applies pretty well to just about anything on Sketchfab. There we go. Turn this guy off. Go to our camera view. There we go. Flip over to solid view. It seems that in the few changes that I made, we've somehow managed to damage the camera and its keyframes. Oh, here's all we did. We lost our setting of 600. There you go. Material preview is great for seeing kind of sort of what it's going to look like. You can just start adding things into the background and lighting them. I don't want to go into too much detail because there's just I could spend an entire class on getting things out of Sketchfab and putting them in here. But just be aware that grabbing a USDZ, importing them, that's the easiest way to just throw something in your background. So I think that about covers all the things that I really, really wanted to cover. There's so much more to it. It can be touched on in so many different ways. Like I know that one thing I really wanted to cover and chose not to for the sake of time is the exploding view or the changing of colors throughout time. What you can do just to be aware of it is if you go to the color settings, which we were in, you realize you have these dots over here on the side. You can animate the property or keyframe the color. You can keyframe the alpha. You can keyframe the emission properties, the coatings, all the specular aspects of it. You can make things float in and out of visibility based off of material properties. You can move individual pieces and blow apart the gun and put it back together by just animating the bolts coming out and the nuts coming out and the parts separating from their seated or pocketed position, right? So all of that's possible here. At the end of the day, you should be able to have a nice, easily manageable project that you hopefully feel shows the 3D model in all the different angles and all the different movements that it deserves to be shown in. So thank you all very much for spending this time with me, learning all of this stuff. I know that it's a lot. I'm sorry for the total duration here. I do understand that this went to an hour and a half, and that's my bad, but I got all the information out. It's here. Hopefully you learn from it. If you end up making something based off of these instructions, feel free to tag me on Instagram or Twitter. My name's Unseen Killer on both. And I hope that this was helpful. You all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for stopping by.